And Suni spoke to Lloyd earlier in the week and asked him why it took so long to make the album.
But it took a bit longer than the previous albums had taken. I think when you get older, you can't keep writing the same songs over and over again, so you have to take a bit more time to make sure that you don't repeat yourself. And so for this record, instead of just writing 10 songs and expecting them all to be brilliant, we wrote about 25 and then threw away the rubbish ones.
This is what they call in the music business the tricky third album syndrome, isn't it?
It is. And I wasn't really entirely happy with the second album, neither were any of us really. I think,
Why?
well, there's some rotten tracks on it. I think there's some good tracks on it, but, you know, some tracks really shouldn't have been on, there should have been B-sides and things. And maybe if we'd have taken a bit longer over that, then that might have been a good album too. So we didn't really want that to happen again. So we thought, well, you know, it's our time, so we might as well use it.
So how much time did you use?
Well, once we started making the record with Ian Stanley, we'd actually spent about 6 months kind of having false starts. We tried to start making the album with Chris Thomas. We had another try with Stuart Copeland.
What was wrong with that?
Well, Copeland, there was nothing really wrong with the Copeland sessions, just that he went away to make a film in Hollywood, so he wasn't available to make the rest of the album.
What about Chris Thomas? Now, he's a very famous, established rock producer. Was he not suitable for you?
I don't know. I don't know if we really don't know if we really brought the best out of him or not. And the session that we did with him was, you know, it's fine. It's just not really very inspiring to listen back to. I've got the tape at home. You can hear it one day. So it was about February of last year by the time we met Ian Stanley.
Were you feeling a bit fraught by that time?
To say the least. I was getting quite depressed, you know, I was thinking, and we had trouble finding people that would work with us. We approached several people that we thought would be good for us, and they just turned us down blank. So
why?
I really don't know. I think it was partly due to the fact that some of the songs we were writing were not really different enough. Excuse me, I have to blow my nose. I've got an awful cold at the moment. This is great TV, isn't it?
At the beginnings of Lloyd Cole and the Commotions a little bit, because, I mean...
You know it, you know it.
I don't. I know that you're at university, but, I mean, it seems that, I don't know, one imagines you sort of in some dark bedsit, I suppose, you know.
Quite true, actually.
Learning your craft, but...
Craft, it's awful, isn't it?
Was it that simple?
Well, I met Blair at university. I stuck an advert on the wall and I said, wanted keyboard player, and he answered it. And Blair's about the diametric opposite of me in all departments of life. I think...
Is he a wild man of rock and roll?
No, he's not even a man of rock and roll, really. He's a suburban Glaswegian and quite content to be so. But he just happens to have a particular talent for writing songs. So it's quite nice to work with somebody that was so different from myself. I had these pretensions for being some kind of bohemian artist at the time. Long since gone, these pretensions. And we started writing songs together. We met Neil, who was... Well, we started writing songs that we wanted to play on guitar, and I'm really rotten at playing guitar, so we started to work with Neil, and he also was able to write songs, so the three of us decided we'd make a nucleus of a band, and we started rehearsing in Neil's flat in the West End of Glasgow and making tapes. And I got a friend of mine called Derek, who was at university with us, to be our manager, and he started getting the train and the overnight bus down to London, you know, every couple of weeks, taking tapes down and kind of pushing his way past secretaries in order to get into, to speak to people at record companies. And when we finally wrote a good song or two, then there was no problem. He kind of pushed his way past and people started offering us money to make records.
And you did, and right from the first single, you know, the first single was a hit. You've had a fair old amount of hits since then. Has it all gone suspiciously smoothly? Have you had a charmed life?
It was going very smoothly until we decided to take a long break to make this album, and then it's not been so smooth since then.
Why?
Well, our big comeback single didn't succeed. It was our first kind of major flop for quite some time, and that was a little worrying, which meant that obviously we're not as popular now as we were 2 years ago.
We can't go.
I think I'm an artist of sorts, you know. I do a particular thing, which is write songs in a particular style, which is my own, and I have a particular place in the kind of musical spectrum these days. I'm quite, you know, proud about, I suppose. I do. I would like more people to be, what's the word? A little more
appreciative,
open to the kind of music that we do, because I don't think it's very difficult to listen to.
pop performers or groups do you admire? Not necessarily for the music, but just for the way they conduct themselves, their careers. You got time for the George Michaels, or?
I think George Michael's very good, actually, these days. He seems to have grown up quite nicely. And whenever I read interviews with him, he seems to know exactly what he's talking about. And his songs, for me, I like that single Faith a lot. And I almost like I Want Your Sex. It's just, I think his singing's a bit awful on that, to be honest. I think his singing is his weakest point. Yeah, I do. I think instrumentally he's very good. And arrangement for pop songs, things like that. Careless Whisper's actually, I mean, there's quite a good lyric in there. It's like a, what is it, Guilty Feet Have Got No Rhythm. That could have been Cole Porter, I'd have thought. So yeah, I think he's very talented. And, who else? I quite like the Pet Shop Boys. I mean, I don't like them a lot, but they strike me as being the kind of people that you can meet and get along with. I bumped into them in a bookshop in Los Angeles about 3 years ago, when they were just becoming huge, and I thought they were dreadful, so I blanked them. It's really rude, actually, and I really wish I hadn't now, actually, because I think Neil Tennant seems quite interesting. Anyway, I like New Order. And I like groups that don't really pay any attention to what anybody else is doing and just get on with what they're good at. I'm good, I think. I tend to listen to other kinds of music.
Oh,
R&B and blues and jazz. It's much better to get ideas for what can make a different sound by listening to other kinds of music rather than listening to pop music.
What about other influences apart from music? Now, you've got quite a name for yourself for name-dropping in your lyrics, slipping in the name of a film
Slipping in the odd name here and there. Yeah.
Are you still doing that? Is the new album sprinkled with those as well?
Well, I don't like it to be called name-dropping, to be honest. I think it's a little nasty when people say that.
I'm winding you up, Lloyd, aren't I?
It's, well, they're all there for a reason. Right? In Are You Ready to Be Heartbroken, Truman Capote. Is Truman Capote in Heartbroken? No, Norman Mailer's in Heartbroken. He's in Heartbroken because of the particular lifestyle that he talked about in The Naked and the Dead. And, you know, if you wanted to be the straight man, then you read Norman Mailer. I would have thought that made sense. And Simone de Beauvoir's in Rattlesnakes because she is the kind of personification of the modern thinking woman.
And
you know,
Eva Marie Saint?
She's in there because of the way she looks in On the Waterfront. But I've still got, well, I've got Sean Penn Blues on the LP, so yeah, I'm still getting the odd.
And is it really about him?
It's about this poetry reading that he got invited to. I think he was set up by, this is true, it really is true. He apparently has written some poems, and the Washington Post or somebody found out from a friend of a friend of a friend that Sean's written a few poems, maybe we can stitch him up. And he was invited to this reading, and there was some journalists there to cover the reading. And he went and he read his poems, and he was ridiculed. People laughed out loud at him. And then it was covered by the Washington Post or whatever paper. I know it was one of the very big dailies in America. And I thought, you know, that's really sick. You know, that's about as low as you can get to get a cheap story. So I thought that somebody should stick up for Sean. And so I think the commotions are the Stand Up for Sean Penn Society these days. I mean, if somebody did that to me, I would probably smash their camera or put my foot through their television. That's just an awfully nasty thing to do. It was going very smoothly.
You never realise until they do go away for 2 years that the public is a bit fickle and is liable to forget them.
We were always aware that it was going to be a problem, but we thought that the single we came back with was good enough. The public disagreed.
Are you a sensitive soul? Do you take these things very much to heart, these little reverses?
I think it's best to be fairly stoic about the whole thing. It's not the end of the world, is it? I mean, we still make a fairly comfortable living by everyday standards, even if we don't have massive hits, as long as we kind of trundle along at our own pace.